Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video we'll be talking about a very active pattern, very cold pattern, and obviously some of the bigger snowstorms that are in the near future. The biggest one right now is going to be occurring across the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic, and into the Northeast, so I'll go over that obviously, and then just several other storm chances that we have. Some of these could be very powerful storms, so definitely it's a lot of stuff to go over. Now, if you guys would like to support this channel, you could do so by subscribing if you enjoy the content, and you could also hit the thumbs up button. That helps out a lot. Otherwise, feel free to leave any comments down below. Let's get into this. The first thing I want to look at is the radar and what is going on right now as of 6:45 Central Standard Time. So if you live across the East Coast, it is 7:45 when I'm recording this. Notice that across North Carolina, South Carolina, we do have some snow, really more into Georgia than South Carolina. Again, this wasn't looking like a South Carolina heavy event. Maybe, the extreme northwestern tip will see some snow, and we'll talk about the details about that in a bit. Regarding the whole picture, notice that this did move through Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri. Some locations got absolutely nothing, while others overproduced and got decent amounts of snow, and that was associated as we have these little bands kind of coming through, and wherever that snow fell or wherever it was heavy, it accumulated very quickly as it was fluffy. It was feather like snow. It wasn't like a matted snow where you usually get with heavy wet snowflakes that are at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. A lot of these locations here are in the single digits. Notice that we do have obviously snow starting to occur across the mountains, Appalachians into Tennessee, North Carolina. That will continue to spread and kind of transition the surrounding areas from rain to snow. Notice that, again, we are not in the Northeast yet with the snowfall, but it is a matter of time before this rides up into the Northeast and produces decent snowfall. Regarding the Great Lakes, notice that off of all 5 lakes, you do have some lake effect. Well, 5. Off of all 4, Michigan, Superior, Huron, and Ontario. Lake Erie did have some lake effect. Right now, it has winded down. The winds have changed direction, so it's no longer supporting it there. And notice we have another system moving on to the northwest, which will bring more snow into the plains. Again, if you live in Nebraska, Iowa, Midwest here, and if you kind of missed out by this first event, again, the snow chances will be plentiful. Now, again, not really any of them seem to be overly impressive, a 6-inch, 12-inch event, but there will be locations that could get up there. For example, North Platte got up to 7 inches, and they were only forecasted to see 3 to 5. Notice that if we look at Nebraska, we do have decent snowfall amounts. Not really any of them are too significant, but we do have some over 6-inch reports. Notice right there south of Lincoln, quite a bit south of Lincoln. DeWitt, Nebraska, 7 inches. North Platte got 7 inches, so definitely a good snowfall, but look at that. I mean, just a bit to the south. 5.8 inches drift to 1.5 feet. You can see that's pretty impressive. Grand Island right there, 4.4 inches. Notice, look at that. Wichita got a bit more snow than they thought they would. Notice that they got around an inch, inch and a half. Kansas City, around 1 to 2 inches. Into Arkansas, they got some snow, 3 inches right there. Into Illinois and Iowa, not bad also, 2 inches. And to Chicago, the snow's still lightly snowing, but probably no more than an inch or 2. Lake effect-wise, you can see some decent amounts off of Ontario and Erie, and into Michigan as well. We did have some reports over 15 inches. And obviously the mountains. Pretty good snowfall reports as well. Alright, let's go back to the models and track this out. So let's take a look at as many models as we can without going into huge backlog of time. Notice that we have the European pulled up, right? This is as of Saturday 18Z, so around 12 noon, which already passed, right? So this is a bit out of date, but notice it does a relatively good job with what happened. We do see that snow across Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. Look at that, transitioning over to snow across Tennessee, Kentucky. That northern band of that snow kind of dissipating, but again, some light snow will be possible, and it will have no trouble accumulating as it will be very cold on our roadways, and salt is pretty much ineffective. For those that don't know, salt below 21 degrees Fahrenheit loses about, I think, 3/4 of its effectiveness, and if you get towards 15 or 10 Fahrenheit, it's pretty much not going to do anything. And that was the case. We were seeing a very light snow. There was salt on the streets. It really didn't do anything. It was so cold. Notice, look at that. Across the Northeast, it will be obviously a bit warmer, so it won't be as high of a ratio of snow. but it will be falling heavier, very heavy precip rates right across Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, West Virginia. Again, you can see it strengthens. It's a pretty big system, 993 millibars of low pressure. Not a monster. It's not going to bomb out. It's probably not going to be the February, storm of the month. But it's going to drop up to, a foot potentially across, especially Massachusetts. By the way, if you do hear some meowing, it's my cat. He is meowing, and she's a pretty vocal kitty, so if you do hear that, I apologize. Alright, notice, in terms of snowfall amounts, we do see snow more across the west into Washington, Idaho, Montana. And what we also see is obviously that snowfall across the northeast. You can see assuming a 10-to-1 snowfall ratio, which it might be a bit higher further to the north, but probably around 10-to-1 towards the coastal areas. Notice Virginia, Central Virginia, not bad event, right? I mean, probably getting the placement of the heaviest snow across Central Virginia. Over 6 inches is not out of the question. Notice Tennessee potentially, look at that. That is definitely an aggressive scenario from the European model. Look at that in Georgia, potentially getting a bit of snow. In northern Georgia, extreme northwestern South Carolina. Maryland, DC, 5-4 inches. New York City, same amounts, really. And then it does intensify here, so some higher amounts across Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Cape Cod are very possible. Especially if the snowfall ratio does increase a bit more after the system starts pulling away. You could get some higher amounts here. Notice more snow starts falling across the Midwest into tomorrow night, actually, really tomorrow into tomorrow night. It's pretty quick. It does not stop. These systems just keep coming. It's a very active belt of moisture, and notice that just pushes forward through Tuesday. We already have more snow, potentially more for the northeast again, and then longer range and even longer. We just see that snow pile on rather quickly with some potential for some bigger storms. Look at that, the west. Potentially some cities, even in the lower elevation, seeing snow. I mean, that is rather remarkable. If you were to see that, that's a lot of snow for even the lower elevated areas. So maybe Seattle, Portland, potentially something to watch for. Let's take a look at the GFS and take a example of the Kuchera, so we could see how much snow it's projecting with the temperature profiles estimated well for. Let's top it at Tuesday instead. Right there. All right. So notice that the GFS doesn't show really that significant of a snow system, right? I think this is underdone. I think there will be amounts that get into the 6-inch range. But a few areas, maybe not Maryland. I mean, this model shows Maryland kind of missing out. But there definitely could be a few areas in between that get 1 to 2 inches. And then other ones, even just a few miles or a few counties over could get quite a bit more snow. It's definitely still something that is not set in stone and probably won't be, as a lot of storms and nor'easters are hard to predict. Look at this, though. Through Tuesday, more snow across Idaho, Montana, some amounts getting pretty copious. And then look at that, more heavy snow into Nebraska, Iowa, northern Missouri, Illinois, right? Not bad. 384 hours out, so this is almost into, late February, almost reaching onto that meteorological spring. Notice the northern plains are not favored because here will be that dominating polar vortex pretty much spitting any precipitation to the south or to the north, and that's pretty well exemplified by this. However, again, once February passes into March, this polar vortex will probably weaken, or probably the pattern will break. I mean, this is going to be a long-term pattern regardless, so it's only so long it could keep up. And we'll probably start seeing some more classic north to south systems, or south to north that could, drop blizzards across Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. So definitely, while the 10-day forecast doesn't look exciting for you, I think you'll get your fair share. Once everybody else is enjoying spring. Unfortunately, that's how usually it is across the north. Notice, though, for the rest of the United States, the south, the east, the west, maybe not the southwest, but you can just see where that jet stream will be kind of lining up. And a lot of activity, many areas potentially over a foot, foot and a half. This is assuming the Kuchera ratio. If you were to turn on at 10-to-1, it would be a bit less. But again, with that cold air, the fluffy snow, look at that even right there, potentially pretty good amounts across the northeast. So that is that with the GFS. Quickly, just show you what the Canadian shows with this system. You can see also longer range shows decent amounts of snow. Let's take a look at this. So again, at this point, what we have to monitor is for 2 potential powerful snowstorms. Obviously, we have this one, the first one across the northeast. Right, tomorrow the Canadian shows some pretty good amounts with it. Very strong system once it reaches into the Gulf of Maine. And then we see a break. However, these little bands right here, maybe under underrepresented, and if you get under a few hours under these, they could drop an inch or two, definitely. So that could be a concern. Here's like a weaker storm that does not look to be impactful on a large scale, but if it goes over, say, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, it could definitely drop 2 to 5 inches in that time, and it will be fluffy and dry, powdery snow. And notice, right after that, this is where our second chances for a big system. It's around the 130 hour mark. That's not very that far out. It's within the 5-day range, really. A bit over, but notice that we start seeing bands of precipitation, snow, ice, very far to the south. This is kind of the second storm we have to watch for. The models are very unconfident about it. Notice, though, it does definitely pack a punch, and potentially just one after the other with the Canadian. You can see one after the other with the rain, snow. Look at that sleet. Freezing rain, very, very far to the south, so definitely a bit of a concern, to say the least. Okay, let's start focusing a bit more, not on the longer range, as you saw that there's several storm chances that could be, that could evolve into something powerful. Let's quickly focus on the northeast. So this is the HER model. Let's go back to its 23Z, so only 18 hours out, but it sacrifices its longevity for its accuracy. At least that's the hope, right? Notice that, again, snow pulls away from the Midwest, Illinois, still continuing into Indiana and Kentucky and Illinois into, let's say late today in the evening. As we push this forward into time, notice that we do start seeing more snow redevelop across Nebraska, Wyoming. Shouldn't be too heavy, but there could be some bands that, again, as you saw, set up over one location and could drop over 7 inches like they did across the North Platte. Notice Virginia, right? West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, they start seeing that snowfall late today into early Sunday morning, so like 2 to 3 in the morning. And then the HER model, you can see, progresses this eastward. It's definitely not the most intense scenario. Some show a bit of a stronger system at this point, but you can see relatively still a decent storm system, nice flow, nice cold front, and a lot of snow to the front side of it, to the back side of it. And notice as it takes us through hour 18, this is at around 11, 12 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the afternoon East Coast time. Notice that that's where it stops at. So just throughout that time, let's take a look at the snowfall amounts. Let's just turn on the Kuchera. But again, it may be underplaying some of these amounts across the northeast with the Kuchera. So notice that's what it shows as of tomorrow through 11 o'clock in the morning. Still kind of, yet to take shape across these parts. The HER model is accurate, but not as accurate as we'd hope. Notice that it does show potentially more snow, even to Kansas City, if this extends further to the south. These systems, again, are hard to predict. And assuming a 10-to-1 ratio snowfall event, yeah, that's probably a bit more accurate, to be honest, across the northeast coast. Less accurate for these locations, but more accurate for these places. And notice, this is just through tomorrow in the morning. If we were to go out to the model that goes out, the HER model that goes out to 48 hours, we would notice that, decent amounts for sure, especially by the coastal areas. Long Island, 6-7 inches, Cape Cod right there, and into Rhode Island. Notice more snow across the Midwest, assuming a 10-to-1 ratio. Obviously, these would be higher, more fluffy, and another system you can see coming down. Look at that, into New Brunswick, Nova Scotia up there, pretty good amounts. Lake effect continues. Maybe not across Ontario and Erie as much as Michigan, Huron, and into Superior. So that's what the HER shows. Let's take a look at another high-res model, the RAP, just to time this out for you guys. This one is new. It's newer in terms of totals, in terms of hours. It's, I think, 2 hours old as I'm showing you this. Notice what it shows is decent amounts already starting to occur across potentially North Carolina, Georgia. Look at that. Maybe a higher elevated area of double digits, not out of the question. Notice that, okay, as we take this through the northeast coast, the RAP, the RAP, Nantucket, it really shows Nantucket getting a lot of snow out of this, 15 inches. So that definitely would be a decent event, to say the least. And notice that as we push this forward, it pushes into Canada and even southern, extreme southeastern Maine with decent amounts. So if you were to turn on the Kuchera, it would probably decrease the amounts across the northeast, yeah, but increase them across the Midwest. Again, I think that the amounts are going to be more accurate with a 10-to-1 ratio for the northeast. Kuchera for the Midwest, as it will be very cold. And notice snow continues to add on there. even as we get into 50 hours range. Let's just go over the radar. I went over the snowfall amounts. Let's go over the radar. Notice this is today, tomorrow, today at midnight, actually 12 o'clock, right? Early Sunday morning. Right now, you can see snow developing across Virginia, Pennsylvania, more into Nebraska, Iowa, Omaha, Kansas, northern Missouri. Look at that, very large system, very broad spin, and we have that just cruising along the East Coast. Not, again, extremely too intense, but for the coastal areas that get very close to the center and enough cold air, you could definitely pick up a few inches within a short amount of time. Notice we do see a bit of light snow moving through the Illinois, Iowa area into tomorrow. That system moving off into Maine and New Brunswick, Nova Scotia areas, and eventually into Quebec. And you can see that the light snow continues and probably underplayed significantly by this model. Okay, let's take a look at what the less high-res models, but a bit more precise than the global one. So you can see that's what they show. The RDPS is kind of like the high-res Canadian. Look at that. Decent amounts, right? Decent rates. And we have the little continued event across the plains with that light snow and a potential snowstorm. A very large one towards the end of the week again. Not this one, but the second piece. Okay, so I know that you folks probably want to cross the Northeast. You want to know, okay, so how much snow can we expect? Well, you can see you have a lot of warnings, a lot of watches, right? Just let's take a look at the larger cities, and I'll show you the snowfall map in just a second. Washington, D.C., again, one of those areas that could underperform or overperform. As of this point, 1 to 3 tonight, 2 to 4 tomorrow. That's a pretty good event if that were to unfold the way that is predicted. Let's take a look at, say, New York City, right? New York City, it's just a few counties, but New York City's in it. Heavy snow, 4 to 8 inches, so definitely the National Weather Service is kind of on a higher end of things with that compared to if you were to look at the models. So this is the National Weather Service forecast, but put onto like a model layout, which is a very cool thing. It's on weathermodels.com. This is the website. Notice that for the next 36 hours, obviously more snow here across the west into the lakes. But look at the Northeast. It does show officially around 6-7 inches across Boston, say Connecticut, Rhode Island, the Long Island, New York City, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, I should say, 4 to 5 inches. Eastern Pennsylvania. It will really start to, Western Pennsylvania, you probably won't pick up anything really at all, but Eastern Pennsylvania coastal areas may pick up to half a foot. Notice DC, not bad, right? Virginia, not a blockbuster, but definitely a decent event, and Philadelphia will pick up more than they saw last year, which I think was 3/10 of an inch for their whole season. They obviously already have way surpassed that. And into the long range, notice the snow keeps piling on. That takes us through hour 72. And that puts it at a pause. So you can just see that jet stream kind of where I shouldn't say jet stream, but I should say where the polar vortex edge kind of reaches out to, and the snow is pushed down towards, instead of just going straight across into Minnesota or Wisconsin. So that is what the National Weather Service shows. I do want to show you quickly the GFS ensembles, if I can, just to give you an example of how much activity could be on its way. I wish there was a whole view for the United States, and there isn't. I mean, I can show you just the East Coast, which is like the eastern half. I would show you the whole United States, and just look at that. It's so far zoomed out that it's not even pleasant to look at. But hopefully you can find your little tiny location on here in this tiny map and see. So notice that this is today's event. You can see a lot of the snow getting added onto the coast and into Quebec, and then that's the late week system, the potential new one. You can see there's a lot of differences. Some show very heavy snow into North Carolina, Virginia. Some show lighter amounts, and some show it further to the north. Heavy amounts, but further to the north. And you can see that in the longer range, just these amounts keep getting added on. Some of them, again, getting pretty far to the south. Look at that, South Carolina getting snow. Much of the Northeast with this ensemble. So, I mean, just a ton of differences, but definitely a lot of snow. This is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, which again, some of this across the Midwest could be falling at a much higher ratio, and pushing this even farther out if we can, as far as we can. We could see right there. I'm just look at that, find your little location, go through all of these very, very, very snowy scenarios unfolding, to say the least. If I have time, I know this is a bit late already. Long video. Let's take a look at the 15-day snowfall. Notice this is what the operational Euro shows. Look at those amounts right there going crazy. And to the south right there as well. Notice this is our ensembles now. All right, each one will have a different scenario, right? But notice that obviously, it's consistent in the fact that there's a lot of snow. Some more for even upper plains, some for more of the coastal areas. And look at that one. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous scenario, which isn't out of that's my cat right there, which isn't 100% on, not gonna happen. It's very, very unlikely, but it's a possibility that we could see some sort of snow events. Probably not to that magnitude whatsoever. Notice though, yeah, that, to say the least, a snowy pattern. All right, my cat is telling me to hurry up and get off, so I'll catch y'all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.